we are going to be doing something a little bit different this time. You might be looking at this and saying, hey, isn't this fucking FiRMA? And no, it isn't. This is the hard sci-fi bigger brother of FiRMA, which is in some ways better and in some ways innumerably worse. I hope I use that word correctly. Engage! I think, yeah. Oh, my squiddly spooch. I'm kind of digging this. Like, what is a Lunar Lander doing in the asteroid field? Use the boost to get through! I guess I may as well. Let me see. There's a bunch of different maps. You can go to Mars in this. And I appreciate that Mars looks a bit more like actual Mars than it does in FiRMA. And you know what I found out? You know what I found out? Your balls are going to explode. This has actual biodomes in it. I don't mean to keep harping on that. But in FiRMA, there are these geodesic domes with fucking nothing in them. They're not even sealed. Oh, yeah. Gotta turn main. This is like a simulator. This is partway between a simulator and a conventional game, because you have to do all this accurate shit in order just to get started. And you need to precisely align those dots with the circles that I'm looking at when you're landing, otherwise it won't refuel. At least on hard. Fuel 100. I'm just making absolutely fucking sure, because this game does not fuck around. This game is extremely unforgiving. The habitats are more realistic too. Look at that. This is not FiRMA's far future setting. This is like a plausible near future lunar habitat setting. Now, this is just conventional thrust, and lunar gravity is realistic here. I don't know if Martian gravity is realistic. I haven't been to Mars yet. I should hope that they adjusted the gravity so the handling is different. And I hope you can hear that. There's like chatter taken from the actual Apollo missions, which improves. And you can tilt in order to use your main thruster to add thrust. Like Lunar Lander for Atari or Apple II. If you really want to go fast, this is the way to do it. But you don't want to go too fast, because it's actually a bitch to slow down in this game. How did I do that? And why is it making them... There's the fucking biodomes. That looks like shiny titties in the distance. You can see my jet firing. Look at that. How cool is that? The answer is extremely cool. About 67.5 cool. And fuel consumption is realistic too, so you really gotta... There we go. That's how I adjust tilt. This is a gamepad game, and I can't imagine it being any good with... I guess you could use touch controllers, and that would be kind of immersive because you're holding two lever type things. But you would still basically control it the way you would with a gamepad. Gotta start adjusting velocity. Let's get a look at these biodomes down here. Pretty looking domes. I'm really unclear on how we're going to build anything like this on the Moon or Mars, because you have to assemble it on site. You can't send it as one big piece. There's no rocket large enough. And will that really be airtight enough? Will it? Because air pressure does not only push upwards and outwards, it also pushes downwards. It looks like the ground is flat. Actual biodomes. By God, look at this shit. And I bitch a little bit about the controls in this because they're so much more realistic. I actually prefer the FiRMA controls. You can jump in and zip around and immediately understand it. But this really is more immersive. It feels like you actually are piloting a lunar module. Lunar Lander. That's photovoltaic. It is on the top. They actually modeled plants. Thank you, developer. Thank you for bothering to give two shits about the believability of your environment. You didn't have to. You could have made just generic sci-fi buildings like a certain game. I keep saying this, but I hate because I love. And I do love FiRMA. I give it a hard time only because it could have been more like this. It could have been like this, but with arcadey controls. And I've shot a missile. And I've shot a flare. How do I bring up the correct display to refuel? You really have to have a light touch in this game. Can I refuel? I can. I like that you have to actually activate it. This might be an application for touch. If that were closer, I could reach out with my hand and use the touch screen. And only when I reach out and grip this throttle or this joystick would my arm freeze in that position and start responding to my thumbstick and button commands. That might work. Developer, if you're watching this, that might be a way to implement touch controls. Like, imagine being able to reach over with your arm and touch that button or use any of these control schemes. Also, if stuff got loose and was floating around the fucking cabin, you could reach out and grab it. That might be cool. It might be cool. So even though... Oh, that's a shitty job of landing. Even though... You know, this is more realistic in terms of the scale of lunar settlement than FiRMA. There's still not actually enough funding in the government or any business rationale for building even one of these habitats. There's nothing that we need to do on the moon that generates enough profit to justify this infrastructure expense that we need humans for. We could just send robots. And nobody likes that. That fucking touches them in their ouchie no-no place. Because they, like me, dream of a colonized moon and Mars. And they don't want it colonized by robots. They want it colonized by human beings. But the thing is, economics does not respond to human dreams. And if you really want that colonization to happen, you have to confront ugly truths like that. You have to start thinking, okay, for reals, how are we actually going to make this happen from a financial standpoint? And you don't make it happen by hand waving, because nobody's going to spend billions, trillions really of dollars on hand waving. They need a real fucking rationale that is convincing, that says, if you fund this, you'll be able to make your money back. And so far, nobody can offer them that. And you say, oh, well, I heard that there's helium-3 on the moon, and we can mine helium-3. Well, guess fucking what? We don't have fusion reactors yet. There's no point to mining helium-3 until we have fusion reactors. I may have to tilt. Yeah, I'm going to have to tilt. I hate doing this. I hate doing this because it's really disorienting. Look at those plants. Look at those beautiful... I wonder about radiation. Wouldn't the radiation fuck up those plants? Nobody wants to hear this. See, it seems to be written into my DNA that I have to ask questions like that, even if it makes people hate me, because you know, if the Emperor is nude, we have to know about it. If we really want to succeed, you can't fake your way through something as technically demanding as space colonization. And people who really want it to happen, who are true believers, like me, tend to look into the matter only far enough until they have what sounds like a plausible solution, and then they stop investigating it because they don't want to find out that it won't work. They want to believe that it will work. That doesn't cut it, though. It has to actually work. What I mean is by saying, oh, okay, helium-3, that'll do it. That's good enough. I've heard enough. That will be enough to fund the settlement of the moon. But it won't. We don't have any way to use helium-3. And if we did, then there's also the issue of getting it to Earth, which you know, that's potentially solvable, but only with really big infrastructure like railguns. And they're like, well, we'll find some way. We'll find some way. No, you won't. That doesn't cut it. In the world of funding multi-trillion-dollar projects, we'll find a way doesn't actually get anything done. You need a complete plan. And then Mars, how the fuck are you gonna... Uh-oh. I've been talking so much I didn't think about my speed. Okay. The main thruster is really crucial. I hate to turn the whole craft like that. It's nauseating. Not really nauseating for me. I don't get sick. I just get it sort of disoriented and annoyed. I'm still not very good at this. Meanwhile, in FiRMA, this would have been over in a couple fucking seconds. Took me so long to learn how to do this. You really have to account for momentum. One thing that's not in this game that I'd like to see is dust that gets kicked up when you land. And it has a realistic lunar trajectory because of the gravity. It doesn't like hang around because there's no air. I'm going to pick up all the speed and then blow right past it again. I'm really bad at slowing down. I don't want to wait to get there, but I also don't want to blow past it. I'm being torn apart by conflicting desires. Okay, I'm under 50% now. Where's the pad? There's a landing pad here, isn't there? If there's not a landing pad here, I'm in trouble. Where's the landing pad? This is not amusing to me. I swore I saw one. There it is. There's a cable in the way, though. I don't like the generic crates. I would like to see some of those opened up so we could see what supplies are in there. Otherwise, they just look like Turbo Squid generic sci-fi assets. I like the radar towers. That is something we would realistically build. This is so tough. I love it. I love it at times, but at the same time, this is not a game that you play if you have conventional notions of what fun means. This feels so real, though. I really feel like I'm... Despite the fucking crackling audio, which needs to be looked at. Here we go. That's not too bad. And there is a combat function. You can do multiplayer and try to shoot each other down. Although it's such a hassle. It takes so much of your gray matter just to pilot the craft that trying to manage combat at the same time and be any good at it seems really impossible. Maybe I just need to get good. I don't know. I didn't do anything. F point, okay. Wants me to go that way. I don't want to go that way. Uh-oh. What the fuck? What the fuck? What the fuck happened? My thrusters just stopped responding out of nowhere. I must have turned something off. I hit select. Not really knowing what would happen. Just experimenting with controls. Well, send a ham to my widow. Okay, let's see. Hydroponics. Let's see. Mission. Destination Delta. Delta, okay. We can do this. Have I already got the... Wait a minute. Have I already got the cargo? Let me re-land. Okay, I do in fact have the cargo. That was a good thing to fucking check. I'm already ready. I'm ready to be a whaler on the moon. Whalers on the moon. We carry big harpoons, but there ain't no whales, so we tell tall tales and sing our whaling tunes. And of course, the whalers on the moon from Futurama were a riff on the fact that there's fucking nothing profitable enough to be done on the moon. We need some kind of fucking miracle, is what we need. Otherwise, it's just never gonna happen. I've talked about this before. We either need like communism or fascism. Something like China's government, where they don't really answer to anybody and they just do whatever they want to. And there's good reason to be scared of that, because that has historically had really bad outcomes for human rights, but is also really good at getting large, ambitious, expensive projects done quickly. So it's really about priorities. Are you willing to put up with a burdensomely authoritarian government we may not be able to remove in exchange for humanity becoming a multiplanetary species? And you know, you might say, oh, no, I don't like that. I don't think we have to have that compromise. I think we can have both. We can stay a democracy and stay capitalist purely, or as purely as we are now, which is not very, and still go to space, because Hollywood told me so. Hollywood told me that there will still be an America 1,000 years in the future, and that we'll still be exactly the same country we are today, and nothing will change, because that would disquiet me. It's not very comfy. But realistically, we can't colonize space with the current economic and political paradigm. And that's a really difficult and bitter pill for some people to swallow. We can't colonize space with the current democratic republic model, because we change presidents every 4 to 8 years, and space colonization requires much longer term vision and longer term commitment to a project than that. You've already seen our manned space program changed direction like 3 times. From ISS to fucking Constellation under Bush, and then Obama completely nixed Constellation and said we're going to an asteroid. And now Trump is saying we're not going to an asteroid, we're going to Mars. For a while there, pardon me, they said we were going to the moon. Are we still going to the moon? Nobody knows. Nobody fucking knows what we're doing because nobody knows what the next president's going to do. You can't have that kind of instability in leadership if you're going to... Uh-oh. Good enough. Pay me. Hell yeah. Hell yeah. Hell yeah, Batman. Hell yeah. Okay, cargo south of Bravo. Data survey. How do I even do that? Let me find out. At survey. At survey. What the fuck? Oh, okay. That's gonna be tricky. I'll have to refuel at C, I think. I'm digging this music. How is there a camera above me? How do I have this view? I'm digging this music. I love this feeling. This realistic lunar feeling. I want us to go to the... Look at that fucking beautiful ass Earth up there. Well, I wake up in the morning and I'm feeling fine. Na, na, na. You wouldn't expect a sim to have music, but it does, and it tremendously adds to the mood. Especially since the landscape is more realistic than FiRMA. I don't know if that's a good thing or a bad thing, because the landscape is also in some ways more detailed in FiRMA. Whereas this is just like a height map with stones on it. I can't tell which I prefer. FiRMA has more distinct landscape features, I think. In my head canon, and I hate to use that word because Tumblr uses it, but it's too useful, and makes me picture like an actual nautical cannon, like on a ship, but mounted to my head. Anyways, in my head canon, this is like the prequel to FiRMA. This is the first days of lunar settlement, and FiRMA is like after lunar settlement has been underway for a century. I have to start slowing down. I have to start slowing down. Oh, it's just fly into an orb. I hope there are combat missions in the game. I want this to compete with FiRMA because I think overall this is slightly the better of the two games. Not that FiRMA is any slouch. I love FiRMA, and I keep hating to talk shit about it. But I kind of have to. Uh-oh. Uh-oh. I overshot. That's not good. I need to keep an eye on my fuel. Okay. There's a settlement right there. It's not such a bad thing if I'm low on fuel. I can see the settlement. I've got it in my sights. We carry big harpoons. I don't know if this is a realistic cockpit. I think more likely it'd just be a small windows and a bunch of video screens. But that wouldn't make for a very good video game. Then again, that NASA rover for Mars has a giant acrylic transparent cockpit. And really, why send humans if you're not going to have big windows? Flat windows are realistic too, because the pressure differential is not sufficiently severe. Is not sufficiently severe that you would actually need a spherical bubble cockpit. If you've ever seen the cupola on the ISS, it has big flat windows because the pressure differential is about 14.7 psi, or less than that, because I don't think they have a full Earth atmosphere inside the ISS. I think it's less than that. It's like equivalent to extreme high altitude on Earth. And that's to decrease the stress of pressurization. So it's not like when you're underwater and there's multiple atmospheres of difference between the inside and the outside. In space, you have 0 atmospheres outside, and you only need to have as a large a fraction of one atmosphere inside as is necessary for humans to survive comfortably. I think space stations in the past have been as low as 5 psi, but they were also a much higher percentage of oxygen in the air, which turned out to be a bad idea. And you already know why that is if you have studied the history of the space program at all. Uh-oh, I'm going to overshoot it. Slow down faster. Oh, that helps. I hope NASA never sees this, and I'll never be a lunar delivery boy. That sounds so gay. Elon Musk also wants to build domes on Mars like these ones. And while that looks really cool, I wonder if that's the most practical method, and if we might not be better off sealing and pressurizing underground caverns and lava tubes, because we have seen already from orbital probes that there are skylights, which are entrances into subterranean lava tubes where the ceiling collapsed, and we could fit an airlock to those openings and have kind of free habitat space after fixing it up inside, after electrically heating the interior, lighting the interior, pressurizing the interior. That's more doable financially than sending all of our habitat space one module at a time, which is way too expensive, even if the whole world was pitching in. I'm not on hard, so I don't have to match up this perfectly. But this is awesome. In FiRMA, you don't do any of this. You just kind of... Did I just go Super Saiyan? What the fuck was that? In FiRMA, you just kind of plunk on top of a crate and then you lift it. It's cool you can see your cargo in FiRMA, but it's actually cooler that you have to manually select these options in this game. That's pretty fucking cool. It would be nice if the developers watching this to have the option to get out of the lander and to go into these habitats, even if it's only a limited area, like the biodome and maybe a store, where I can uncover secret missions and spend my money. maybe eat something. Because the only thing about this game I don't like is it feels really claustrophobic, kind of, that I can never get out of the lander. Anyway, I think that's enough for this time. I'm pretty impressed with this. It has a lot of the things that FiRMA doesn't have that I wanted FiRMA to have. I would say FiRMA is the most conventionally fun of the two. In order to get more enjoyment out of this, you really have to be into harsh, demanding sims, and you have to want realism. Realism has to be a selling point for you. But I'm glad both exist, because they kind of satisfy different appetites. If you want more of this, if you want more than one video in this series, let me know in the comments, or I might just do it anyway. Hit like and subscribe, and never give up on your dreams. Unless your dream is to be the world's most prolific serial killer and rapist, in which case you probably should give up on your dreams.